It makes a lot of sense to do that, as you say, in terms of getting it right, not wasting anybody's time, and the like. But listen, a comprehensive update there on Mbermo. In relation to you, we know that Manchester United are keen to move forward with Victor Gyokeres, but are cautious due to the overall costs. There are reports coming out that Sporting are now intentionally driving up the price. There's frustration in Gyokeres' camp. Is this one of the other reasons to add to a delay in any kind of formal approach and formal bid?
Yeah, I think also the player had told suitors that he wanted to wait and everyone was to make an inquiry and then he would decide who he wants to engage with after his holidays. And you have to respect the player side as well. And we also know that Manchester United need outgoings to fund a number 9 of that magnitude. So Victor Gyokeres is open to Manchester United without Champions League football. But of course, they've got other options as well. And they've had to kind of shortlist those options a little bit later because originally they were quite confident that Liam Delap would get over the line. So one factor in the delay with Victor Gyokeres is the fact that the player's just saying, I will seek interest and then engage. And you need to respect that if you want to succeed with this kind of player. Then the reason why I think he thought he could do that was, to your point, because there was this gentleman's pact in place with Sporting that said you can leave for 70 million euros. So the Gyokeres camp have felt for quite some time that there is not going to be a headache with club-to-club negotiation. And therefore, the player can actually control the timeline, knowing once he's decided where he wants to go, that club will go to Sporting, pay the roughly 70 million euros number, and that will be that. Because 12 months ago, Gyokeres decided to stay at Sporting in return for the fact he'd be allowed to leave this summer. Now, regarding reports in Portugal, which I respect, that say Sporting have reneged on this so-called gentleman's agreement and are now asking for in excess of 80 million euros, that's not my understanding. And therefore, clubs interested in Gyokeres can still be calm, that they will be able to get him for roughly 30 million below the 100 million euros release clause. I think what we're seeing from Sporting, which, as you can imagine, is a reasonably fair approach, even if the Gyokeres camp don't like it, is a growing pool of suitors. Gyokeres has had interest from Saudi Arabia. PSG have looked in the past, although it's felt that Luis Enrique might now put the brakes on that deal. Juventus are in there. Arsenal have obviously got Gyokeres and Šeško. So Sporting suddenly realised that as long as the player gets the move he wants, if they have several suitors in a bidding war, why not ask for a little bit more? And that's the kind of game going on at the moment. So the Gyokeres camp perspective, and let's be very clear here, is they believe in this verbal pact. It wasn't just a number, but they believe that the agreement was suitors go to the Gyokeres camp, he decides what his preference is, a bit like Bruno did, and then he goes to Sporting and one club goes to Sporting with player buy-in and they do it for around 70 million euros. Sporting are now realizing that they can seek the interest directly and create a bit of a bidding war. And if so, as is normal in the market, they'll try and get a bit more. But where I think my information is different to that in Portugal is I'm not told that Sporting are denying Gyokeres an exit. They're just trying to get a higher number. But where there may be friction is there will be some clubs such as Manchester United that might do the deal at 70, but not at 75 or 80. And that's where I think the player is getting slightly frustrated because he feels like his valuation is being inflated and it's actually diminishing the pool of suitors interested in him as a result. But this is normal grandstanding. And at this stage, let's wait and see what the next step is. You may remember Moises Caicedo issued a statement in that January when he was being linked with Arsenal, even though the move didn't happen, and basically said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I want to leave. And he still ended up staying. In the case of Sporting and Gyokeres, I still think we're going to hear a lot of noise from both sides. We're going to hear a lot of twists. We're going to hear a lot of drama. And then my expectation is the player will still end up leaving for around that 70 million euros number. And regarding Manchester United, yes, they have made some exploratory approaches on the player side. Nobody's made a formal bid yet to Sporting. And that's, again, why I think we're hearing so much talk about it at the moment, because the more drummed up interest Sporting can create, the higher number they can get. Whereas the Gyokeres camp would rather this happen discreetly, him decide on his number one choice, agree terms. Then when that club goes to Sporting, it will be a more simple negotiation because they'll be the only ones at the table. So there is a slightly different strategy going on between Sporting's approach, wanting a lot of noise, a lot of suitors to come to them, a lot of bids that they can play against each other, and the Gyokeres camp saying, hang on a minute, don't go to Sporting, almost come to me. Agree terms with me first. I'll tell you where I want to go. Then when you go to Sporting, you're in a stronger position. And we wait and see how it pans out. But I still think that Gyokeres won't be leaving for anywhere near his 100 million euros clause. And now we have to wait and see whether Manchester United advance it, whether they place a formal bid, knowing that they've got some player buy-in, but he's got other options as well. And then from there, the situation will be resolved relatively quickly. But I don't sense it's a today, tomorrow saga. It might be one that goes into July.
It says here the Sporting's president has just released a statement, and it says that Gyokeres scored 63 goals and 10 assists. Fantastic performance. Certainly one of the best players to have ever stepped onto Portuguese turf, and Sporting will not demand the clause. He says now blackmail and insults Sporting will not accept. One thing is certain, Sporting will not accept 60 million euros plus 10 add-ons. As of today, Sporting have not received any proposal for Gyokeres. So I think the first part is coming from the president. I'm not sure if the second part is coming from the journalist. It's been like put out there by aggregators. So yeah, I mean, marrying up similarly to what you've said, the president said they're not asking for the
yeah,
clause.
but also 60 million euros was never a number. It's 70 million euros plus whatever add-ons they agree.
Yeah.
That's the number. That's the pack. 60 plus 10, from what I understand, was never an agreement in place. The number is 70 million euros based on sources I speak to on the Gyokeres and Sporting side. And if Sporting get that guaranteed number of 70 million euros, plus whatever add-ons they do or don't negotiate, because you never know, it might just be a fixed fee as well. From there, a sale will happen. And once again, I've not seen that statement you reference, but should that be the words of the president exactly, then he's saying there won't be the release clause 100 million. The pact is it can be 30 million below it. I don't know where this 60 plus 10 number has come from. It's never been a suggestion I've heard, even months ago when all parties were on the same page. It's a 70 million ballpark. There may be add-ons on top, and that will be significantly below the release clause. And that has always been Sporting's position. So I'm kind of surprised that we hear suggestions, given the volume of interest in the player, that the number could only be 60, because that's never something that I've heard. And if the Gyokeres camp suddenly feel 60 is the number and the pact, then they've changed their position, because I've spoken to sources at Sporting, at clubs that are interested in Gyokeres and within the Gyokeres camp. And the number dating back now 6 months, even a year when he started the season, was always around 30 million below the release clause. To my knowledge, it was never 60.